Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So the next series of videos really is just like stocking filler videos really. Mainly just to keep the channel ticking over whilst bits and pieces get done and we're producing the next Woodford Vale update. So we're just going to take you through this, well, what's left of the collection and what's been bought back after the big cull of last year. So we've sort of broke it down, they're all lined up here, and we're just going to go through really and see what we got. So we're going to start here at the large tank engine section. So out of these four, two of them survived the cull and never left. Two of them left and have since come back where I bought them back. So we're going to start here. This is the newest of the lot to the collection really. If you don't include buying them back, it's Robertson A5 tank locomotive, formerly of the Great Central, then LNER, now BR. That's a 462 tank, it's a Pacific tank, and it was mainly used for passenger services, maybe the odd freight service on the old Great Central before being moved elsewhere as the Great Central started to be wound down and it moved into Midland Region Control in 1958. This particular locomotive is 69804, and I've done a little bit of modifications here with some extra lamp brackets and the movement of the lamps. This will mostly be on the layout, pulling suburban stuff, really suburban traffic, as it's all geared up for that. So moving on, we've got a Gresley V3 tank, formerly V1, and it's been one of the members that I sold, and then I saw it pop up again on eBay, so I bought it back. So, because to be honest, it would be nice to have had it back. Again, this is really for the odd freight service, light freight duties, but mostly the suburban workings, local passenger services. And I think that's pretty much the story for all of these big tanks really. The next one is a Thompson L1. Again, this one has been with me, and if you know the channel, this has been with me for a very long time. This has probably been with me, well, it's definitely done a house move, at least one with me. And this is probably, the fifth or the sixth layout that it's been part of now. It's been part of the channel for a very, very long time. Moving along, this is another locomotive that left in the big cull and has since come back and bought back. Again, it was on eBay and I bought it back, and this is a standard 4 tank. Pretty versatile machines in real life really. Again, this will be used for light freight duties and local passenger stuff. So it's pretty much a good old workhorse really. So with the big tanks out of the way, we'll probably head over to the next section here on the right, and we'll go from right back down to the left, and we'll start at the heavy goods section of it. So we'll start right here at the far end. This is one of 3 9Fs. This is 92189. This locomotive it survived the initial cull when the vast majority of stuff went. And then it was just as I was getting ready to let more and more bits go, it went, and then one day it was just like, ugh, it'll be nice to have that engine back. And then again, saw it on eBay and bought it back. Pretty much I bought about 6 locomotives back at one time. So this is 92189. This one again, this is probably now the 5th or 6th layout that this loco's been part of. The next one alongside it, this locomotive has actually survived 3 house moves, and I've had this one a long time. This is my favourite of my 9Fs, 92249. It's the first 9F I got. Cost me £100 at the time, and she's been a regular performer ever since. Definitely up there as one of my favourite locomotives of the fleet. Next up, well, I don't think I need to say too much more about this particular 9F other than it is the sole reason that this current version of the layout is actually being built. It turned up not long after the big cull when Hornby announced to me that they'd taken roughly £300 from my account and my pre-order was on its way. I thought the pre-order had been cancelled. Turns out it hadn't. When this engine initially arrived to me, it had the warning flashes on. The Timken roller bearings down there were yellow, as they are on the other 9F behind it, and it was initially numbered 92097. Well, that engine I decided I didn't want as part of the fleet, so I've renumbered that locomotive, and this is part way through its renumbering process. I'm just waiting for another cycling lion and the shed plate and the smokebox number plate to arrive from Fox Transfers to finish this locomotive off. So she's been renumbered 92064 and she is in charge of these, my concept iron ore hoppers, because, well, even though I did have last year 18 of them, I since sold them all. And if you're going to have the loco, you might as well have the hoppers to go with it. There is actually a video currently on the go of her being renumbered, weathered, as alongside the hoppers, and when I purchase it, the brake van will also be included, so it's just a video going through how I weathered the entire train. So we're now moving on to the next pair of locos, or the next trio shall I say. These are all formerly Great Central locomotives. So we have a little J11 here, a 01, an 04/1, sorry, and in the back there an 01, which is an 04, which has been rebuilt by Edward Thompson. About the regular locomotives themselves, the front two are Bachmann models, and they're pretty solid. Crude mechanisms in them, but they do work. And the Hornby one at the back, the 01 there, is phenomenal. The 01 is definitely one of their best models they've ever made, alongside the K and B ones. They are fantastic. Those particular locomotives, for some reason, seem to have hit the sweet spot just before Hornby had all that motor trouble with the later B12s, the S15s, and a few other bits and pieces as well. So now, to finish off the goods fleet, an interloper in the form of this 8F. Anyone who knows the channel long enough knows that I had two 8Fs. I had 48045 with a Fowler tender and this one. This particular one is probably the most famous and well seen of all my locomotives on my channel, despite a certain A3 that you guys will see later on. This one actually formerly belonged to Lewis Bucknell of Mouldy Raspberry channel. He sold it a fair while ago, and I was lucky enough to buy it. And it's genuinely just a fantastic piece of work. Really, the weathering job he's done on it is really good. If you go back far enough in his back catalogue, you will see this on his channel, I believe. He has subsequently bought another 8F. So yeah, so now moving on, we'll move on to the mixed traffic portion. And we'll start off here. This locomotive is probably the one locomotive that has been in my fleet longer than anything else you're going to see in this video. This Peak I bought when I was around somewhere between 10 and 12. I bought it donkeys years ago. It's been through 4 or 5 house moves, and it did formerly show all the battle scars of that. I've now just got to replace these cab windows. It even melted a little bit here where it had been under a light where I was working on it for too long. For the longest time you could only lift the body up and the chassis would stay where it was. I've found some screws and managed to replace them, and I've recently replaced all the buffers with brass ones, so now it's got 4 buffers again for the first time in probably 6 or 7 years. This locomotive is the longest serving, other than 92449 up there. Probably the oldest locomotive in my collection, barring a HST set that I really should get out and get repainted and repaint it and have it redone properly. I mean, the HST set that I got was the second complete train that I had aged 6. So this one here is the second longest surviving member of my original locomotive fleet. So she holds quite a special place. Alongside her is my Britannia 70034 Thomas Hardy. This locomotive didn't go anywhere. And sorry, going back to the good stuff, this one here, the J11, was the one that went and I bought it back. So the rest of them, they didn't go anywhere. So yeah, this locomotive, the Peak, the Brit and the Merchant Navy alongside them, these survived both culls, as it were. They never went anywhere, they all stayed. So now moving on, the V2 and the B1. These two here, I only ever had one B1, so that was going to stay anyway. And this one here, I had 2 V2s, one of which was the older split chassis variant of that tooling, 60845. That was on eBay, but I didn't really fancy buying that locomotive back. So that one went on to pastures new, and I hope to a lucky owner, if he's watching this or she's watching this, I hope you enjoy that engine. So yeah, moving on now, we're moving into the more exciting part of the fleet, express passenger locomotives, and we actually start with the German. This is a Deutsche Bahn 03 or BR03. Won't really see this one running, I'm afraid. It's an old model of one. In fact, it's by a company called Pico, I think they're called, P-I-K-O, and it's that old. It was actually made in West Germany, so it was before the Germanys were reunited back into the Germany we know today. It was actually made in the days of the Iron Curtain, and she was made in West Germany. So yeah, not a regular performer on the channel. You won't see her too often. She very rarely ventures out. The lead weight from the tender's missing, so I'm going to have to reform a lead weight for that to get it running again, and then I'll have to buy it some appropriate stock, really. But you might see it, you might not. Moving on from that, this is a work in progress. This is my W1. As you can see, it's had a form of weathering previously applied to it, and I just wasn't happy with it. So I removed it all, but unfortunately when I removed it, it damaged the lining on the cab sides and the tender. So I need to buy a lining kit and reline this locomotive, really. Next up is the A3 Trio. It's kind of sad, really, that you think this time last year I had 7 A3s and now we're down to 3. The 4 that are no longer with us is Royal Lancer, which was in original A1 condition, Singapore, which was the other late condition smoke deflected Great Northern tendered one, Sunstar, which was the blue one, and Isinglass, which was the other BR early condition one. These locos might get reintroduced into the fleet. Not the actual ones that were originally part of the fleet, but I might pick up more A3s. I'm definitely going to have more A3s because I sort of have a soft spot for them. My favourite class of engine is the 9Fs, but these are a close second. So the A3s that are still here is Colombo, Colombo's still here because I just didn't think it was worth anything, really. It just wasn't worth trying to sell it on. And plus it gives me a nice challenge where the Ringfield motor in the tender there, I'm going to try and update that to a CD motor. I can practice lining on it. And so this will be in single chimney format. It kept the original dome for a time being before it had a dome like these two. So I'll probably keep that dome on it, and it'll be BR Early Cycling Lion, lined green, as is Humorist here. So that's Colombo. Going off the running number, no prizes for which this locomotive is. This is 60103 Flying Scotsman. It's, other than the Royal Artilleryman, which is the peak, it's the only other preserved loco. I try and stay away from them if I can. And then finally, that's Humorist. That's the unique A3. That one, of course, was going to go nowhere. It's my favourite of all my A3s that I've got. It's the best bit of modelling, in my opinion, that I've done. So now moving on, we've got the final three. And it's my A2s. So 60501, 60512, Cockler North and Steady Aim. Those two locomotives, they went nowhere. They survived both culls, and they stayed. I did initially have two A22s. I had Thana Fife as well, but she was sold mainly through lack of use, because I weathered 505 myself, and although she looked reasonable, it just wasn't good enough for me. So I sold her on, and she went to pastures new. The last A2 is this one here, 60534 Irish Elegance. She survived the initial cull, but unfortunately went a bit later on. And again, much like 92189, the J11, the V3 and Standard 4 tank, she surfaced again on eBay, and I bought all 5 of them back at the same time. There was one more that resurfaced on eBay, which was my old D11 62667 SOM. Unfortunately, the budget just did not allow me to stretch to buy that locomotive back, so she went on to pastures new, sadly. But that model still exists, and I can still buy it, another one, and do it up the same I did. So from the original 68 to 70 locomotives I had, I've still got about 25 left, really, in the fleet. It's a lot more modest. If you were to go back and watch my 100th subscriber special, you'll get an idea of just how vast the fleet used to be. But in a way, the colours have sort of allowed me a chance to take stock and actually go, no, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to approach it. These are the engines. It's actually allowed me, rather than just buying things for the sake of buying things, which is what I was doing, I can now actually put some thought into it and actually go, well, this is why I can justify it. So yeah, that's where we're to. This is just a short little video, just sort of to help keep interest in the channel and give you guys some content whilst I'm rebuilding the layout. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, which, dependent on how things go, it might be another update on the layout. It might be the video on the concept or wagons. For the time being, I'm provisionally going to say it's more than likely going to be the concept to Time Dock or Train video that's going to be coming out next, over a layout update, but we shall see. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.